We do have a question that came in. I'm going to put it out to the panel. All or most people in Texas have Social Security numbers. Does this mean they cannot be Texians? Do they have to give up their Social Security? President Jarnacki, do you have an answer to that question?
Yes, I do. Social Security, as well as veterans benefits or anything else, is a contract between the individual and the United States government. There are lots of people throughout the world that have left the United States, residents of other countries, that still get their Social Security checks. They still get their veterans benefits checks, whatever it may be, or disability. It still comes to them. Once independence is granted, there may be a period of time where they may be suspended for a short period of time, but through the negotiations which will take place at the after independence is granted, that will be made very sure that people that receive those from the United States, which they paid into, will come back to them.
Thank you, President Jarnacki. Secretary of State Billy Ford, do you have something to add?
I do, and I agree with President Jarnacki. That is a contract. It has been a contract ever since you went to work. You signed a piece of paper, and they said, the government said, we're going to take this money from you, and we're going to supply it to you in your later years so that you don't go broke. You don't have enough intelligence to invest in the market to have a retirement, so we're going to do that for you. That's a contract. And as far as I'm concerned, they're bound by that contract. Now, here's the problem. If you think that Social Security is solvent, somebody's mixed your Kool-Aid up, because I don't think it is. I think that all the money that they've been taking in, they've spent everything they could get their hands on, and they gave that fund an IOU. Our economy, not just in our economy here in America, in Texas, in America, but the economy of the world is in grave danger. The only one I know of that's even anywhere close to being solvent again and on sound footing is Iceland. But most of us have never heard about Iceland because they arrested all the bankers and the Federal Reserve officers there, put them in prison, and they did away with their debt. They forgave all the debt and started over again. I think, just my opinion, and I'm just one person, I never really expected to draw Social Security. I figured it'd be broken by the time I got there. But I'm old enough to get it, and I do get it. And as long as they're paying it out, I want my fair share of it. But here's the thing. Honestly, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the world economy will collapse much quicker. And then what are you going to do about Social Security then, as a Texian? What are you going to do? What are we as people living on this land, what are we going to do? You're going to have to figure out something. And you might as well make it with Texas as to make it with the one that lied to you and spent all your money and gave you nothing in return. I yield.
Thank you to Secretary of State Ford. Chief Justice Ray Cannon, do you have something to add?
Yes. One position I've seen, especially in study and research, it shows that because of this issue today of the international law and those obligations that we speak of, I believe it was France that had a colony in Africa, and the people of Africa, prior to their independence, were party to, operated as with underneath that French colonial authority. In other words, they had a contract, as we speak of as with Social Security or as with retirement or Veterans Association and such. That contract had to be honored because once the independence came, France itself refuted to follow through. So that allowed these individuals to move forward into an international tribunal to get remedy on the situation, which was endowed upon them to show that France was obligated, and the court or that tribunal ruled in the favor of these newly independent people,
Yes.
that the obligation still existed and the obligation had to be fulfilled. And that's the reason I say, and I think most of us agree to, is we look at this issue of the international today rather than going back a century back and living under a system that maybe is more prejudiced and more discriminatory, more empowering as far as who those superpowers are to delineate from those obligations and allow themselves to do as they will. That's sort of, that diplomacy is very key on this position, but education is very key because we need to understand that whether we grasp the thought of it or not, everything today is under an international agreement. These things right here took an international agreement. The cell phone you have in your pocket took an international agreement. The fruit that you get from your stores, even down to the insurance or the or even getting on a plane from an international airport from here to there. Everything today is tied under that global situation that we have to understand and comprehend and grasp and put our mind around it. It's not good old hometown anymore. You're living in the 21st century, and these things have adapted to where every aspect, whether it's even this microphone or anything else, we see it's made in China, we see it's made in Indochina, we see it's made in Mexico, we see it's made here, it's made there. That took an international agreement. And through these studies, we're understanding better that, and as we are, and have come to an agreement, is understand that that international regime is our position. And as far as these, as we speak of existing contracts, they must be honored.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Senator Wilson.
Just to add a little math here, since that's my background, the question is, as it was asked, reflects a fear that people have of losing something that they have. But they forget to calculate what they're going to gain when Texas becomes independent, because they are taxed and surcharged and stolen from in so many ways that they haven't heard of, or even if they have, they haven't put it on their calculator. They'll be so much better off financially than they ever will or could have been under the U.S. for all the reasons that people are angry about. Those won't exist in the Republic of Texas as a nation. The government of the Texas Republic can be operated on just import-export duties and nothing else, period. So then sit down and do the math. I mean, yeah, I get Social Security, but you know what? They take my Medicare premium out of it. And they tax me on my Social Security with income tax. They're not giving you that much, folks. It's all smoke and mirrors is all they're giving you. I wouldn't be surprised if it was at least a 50% gain for everybody listening to this forum today. 50% gain in their family financial position to be within the Texas Republic instead of within the United States.
Thank you, Senator.